Welcome to the Mr. Excel podcast. Today we're going to talk about one of the most difficult kinds of data sets there are. The data set where every record takes up more than one physical row. This happens when someone writing a COBOL program probably 10 or 15 years ago was dealing with the physical constraints of a printed page, and they would build a record where they would put some fields on the second row or third row or fourth row. I still see data sets like this coming in. They're very annoying, and you always have to transform them where we have each record on one row. Now, I'm going to use a couple of techniques that we talked about in the past couple of days. First thing I'm going to do is insert two new columns. The first column I call the sequence column, and basically I'm just going to number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then after that use a formula that goes back and grabs the first number. And the nice thing about that is when I copy it down, it will automatically number for me 1 through 6. Now we should go down to the end and make sure that the last record still works, that there wasn't an extra row or column. But that usually works out perfectly because those COBOL programs were so inflexible. If they were doing 6 rows per record, we got that all the time. Okay, and then I'm going to put a group number in. Now, this is a little different than the formula we used yesterday. I'm going to start it off with a 1 and then say equal if the sequence number is equal to a 1. I'm going to add 1 to the number above me. Otherwise, I'm just going to use the number above me. Copy that down. And you'll see that everything in the first physical record is numbered 1, and then 2, and then 3. Put a bit of text up here, just the heading of text would work great. Make sure that I change the formulas to values with paste special values. Okay, now at this point, I'm now able to sort my data and get all of the second records together. So if I sort by sequence, you'll see that we have all of the account numbers perfectly lined up in a group, and then the invoice total, and then the customer name, and then the address, city, state, zip. Now, at this point, we would want to use text to columns to break those apart. Data, text to columns, and you notice I'm just working on the first row of each record. We'll break this apart quickly. Account, invoice, date. I don't need the account heading, so we'll skip that, skip the invoice, skip the date. On the date field, we'll specify that it is a date in month, day, year. Click Finish. So now we have the first 3 columns. That was account number, invoice, and date. Now, if everything worked perfectly, and we assume that we have the right number of columns for each record, I can now take the number 2 records, cut those, and paste them to the right of my data. Then I'll take the customer records, cut them, and paste them to the right of the data. And I'll continue along with this to bring up rows 4, row 5. Eventually, I end up with my transform data that has all of the records on one row. Now, I can hear all of the accountants watching this just screaming because we've lost all of our audit trail. You have to be really careful when you do this. Make sure that there aren't any records that are missing one row or something like that. But when you get those really annoying data sets, there is the way to deal with it using basically the 2 columns, the group column and the sequence column, so that way you can put all of the first rows together, all of the second rows together, and then use cut and paste to put them together. Wow, that was probably one of the most complicated topics we ever had to cover in a podcast. Really uses the techniques from 2 days ago and yesterday to solve this problem. Hey, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully for something far more simple than this.